So these are the interpretations that they have been added to, but only really to enforce what was already there. So we'll go through them in words, and what I might try and do is when we are talking about them, I might bring some examples into this so that people see the words and then an example of it happening or not happening, and I can sort of fill that in. So just one of the first things that comes up here, and something that is very common in cross league because the tackle is made on the ball, is a loose carry. So any drop ball from contact is a loose carry. Being touched first does not excuse a player from an incorrect play of the ball. However, a second attempt by a defender that dislodges the ball is deemed to be interference at the play of the ball.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. So what we're basically saying is that the tackle is made by touching the ball. So, and a second attempt, that's playing on after you've already made the tackle. So same as rugby league. Once the tackle's been made, you can't still try tackling somebody. You can't interfere with the ball. Also, just the same as in rugby league, if somebody's touched, if the tackle's been made, the ball carrier then has to bring the ball back into play by the correct play of the ball. So if they mess up that, if they drop that on the floor, they can't say, "Oh no, the game's not started." They bring the game back into play, but they have the duty to sort of deliver that play of the ball.
Yeah, so I think from a refereeing point of view, most things that are dropped are changeover. There's no real forgiveness there, I suppose. You are supposed to keep holding the ball. The other thing is, the most ambiguous part of this is that second attempt. Sometimes people don't know they're making a second attempt because they don't know the tackle's been complete. So there is that where if the ball was maybe dislodged in the second attempt, you could say, well, I'll let you play that rather than penalise the defender for the second attempt. So there is, whilst there is not a lot of leeway, there is in that second attempt part of the loose carry rule. And the other thing, again, about the second attempt is that people will often complete the tackle and head back to an onside position, leaving a second person to come up to marker. That second person, because they didn't make the tackle, can't hold on to the ball. That does, like looking at the World Cup footage, that does happen quite a bit.
Yes.
Yeah, obviously it's hard for the person to know whether they've made the tackle or not themselves. So are they entitled to do that? But the answer is, in some cases, no. So I think that's where a referee would need to say, release him. You're not the tackler, and that gets us away from that.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on. So setting the mark. This is an interesting interpretation we had to bring in because the mark is a little bit ambiguous when people don't know when the tackle was made and where the tackle was made. And we do have a rule in the rule book where you are supposed to return to the mark, but not entirely. If you've ran off the mark by 3 steps, then you're only meant to take 2 back, etc. So I'll just read the interpretation. So the marker sets the mark only when a front-on tackle is made. A front-on can be defined as when the defender's back foot is closer to their try line than the attacker's front foot. Therefore, when a tackle is made from the side or behind, the defender does not set the mark. The ball carrier must play the ball within 2 steps of the tackle. If they take 3 steps, they must take a step back to set the mark. So, you know, as I said, what you see a lot is tackles from the side and tackles from behind where people have made half breaks. And then the defender may stand still as if to say, you have to come right around me and play it from in front of me. But that's not how it works. That mark is there where you've made the contact, and the attacker has every right to play it from the spot they're in.
Yeah, I think maybe for some people who've played touch and who've played tag, that sort of making your touch and standing still as you're the mark, and they're supposed to come back to you. That's the rules in those
certainly
versions.
In tag, yeah.
So you just pull the tag off and you hold it to sort of say, "Come back and get this here." But but yeah, what we've tried to do it, and I think one thing that does is it speeds up the game, which I think is a good thing. It rather than, yeah, as I said, one of the worst things I think about tag is that sort of having to come back, put your tag back on, fumble with the ball as you're doing that, and then play it. The game restarts. It can take an age, particularly with people who are sort of not that all fair with playing the game very often. If they just drop into it every now and again, they can make that sort of mistake, and it makes the game to me look sloppy, and it slows it down considerably. So we want to sort of keep that. I suppose what you'd say is the reward for making a front on tackle, and that means that you've used your footwork as a defender to get in front of the person, and you've touched the ball front on. When you're still in a front on position, they have to play it there and then. If you've in that spot, there you've set the mark there. But if they've managed to get away from you and you've just managed to sort of get a touch on the ball, stretched out, then they get the benefit there because they've done the bit of footwork that beat you, and they get to if they can manage to stop in 2 steps, they can play it where they stop. If they take 3 steps, they're supposed to come back a step.
Yeah, so just to add, like from a refereeing point of view, what the normally happens, the usual mode of play where people aren't making a lot of headway passing wise early in the tackle count, you tend to end up with 3 front on tackles and 2 probably from the side or behind, because that's just how sets work, isn't it? You have normally somebody takes it in, somebody else, they might try something, but you tend to get it where it's front on for a little bit, and then it ends up later in the set. There's more footwork, there's more space, and then that's where people are making tackles from the side or behind. So it's just something that you need to be mindful of as a referee to make sure that you don't take that sort of reward that you were speaking about there, Des, off the attackers.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, so these are the interpretations. We spoke about this before. We've had videos about this before, but we have redefined these, and this is probably the most important part of cross-league refereeing, is getting these interpretations right of what is the limit of contact. So these are things that are prohibited. So we're talking about charging, so that's taking excessive number of paces towards a defender with clearly no intent to change course or pass, it's a rule that it's a direct translation of ice hockey, where you can't take more than 2 skates towards a player, otherwise that's charging. We've not specified how many steps. We've said a number of paces, because like realistically people are different sizes, and like 2 steps for one person is 1 step for another, and then when do you where do you draw the line? So if it's obvious that they're taking a number of paces towards the defender with no intention of changing course, it's a charge. There's no 2 ways about that, and you do see it. People think, oh, I've got nowhere to go and I do fancy charging into that guy, I'm gonna take the charge.
I think it's, in a way, it's sort of almost the default position of sort of somebody playing full contact who, it's that like, I'm just going to make it a little bit more difficult for the defenders to tackle me. So obviously, it's you're trying to squeeze that extra few inches out of the collision. But obviously, we're playing a different sport. That it's not a collision. It's it's a touch on the ball that makes a tackle. So that's why we've had to say you're not allowed to do that.
I think in high levels of tag, there is a rule where because they're obsessed with faces, not was it spaces, not faces, which to a large degree we probably are, but we're not. It's not as codified as it is for them. They actually have a rule where if somebody gets in front of you and you end up like running into them, then that's a penalty. Or if they create a situation where they've made it so you have to run into them, then that's a penalty against them, which is a little bit, that can be argued either way. I think it ends up being a
Yeah,
little bit like rugby union scrummaging, who's brought that down, who's made that happen. Whereas
yeah.
we're trying to be a bit more clear cut here in that they took excessive steps towards somebody, that's charging, and we do have definitions for things further back. So I'll just move on to barging. So barging is like after the contact has maybe started, you have a situation where if you're using a leg drive or an elbow or a forearm or a shoulder to bump the opponent out of the way, some upper body movement, that's barging. You're trying to barge your way through, and that's not allowed. So it's not to be confused with protecting the ball or controlling the play of the ball to facilitate a quicker or high quality play of the ball. So to explain that little bit, you are allowed to keep the ball away. You are allowed to keep your frame as big and as strong as possible to protect the ball. But what you're not allowed to do is use that frame as a weapon against the defender.
Yeah, yeah. Well, which is pretty much the same as full contact rugby league. Really, you're not allowed to use the forearm to bump people off. People do it to sort of just, and they get away with it, protection. But if you've sort of obviously led with the forearm or the elbow, I think there was an incident in some rugby union I saw recently. One of the Tuigamalas, or not Tuigamalas, what are they called? The the guy that used to play for St. Helens. He has brothers playing. Tuilagi, yeah, I think so. Like he sort of carrying it in the left arm with his right elbow lifted and just bumping off defenders with that. And so obviously that's illegal. That's, it's illegal at whatever level you're playing at, to be honest.
Very much like a common sense sort of rule. I think that the difference is there's probably slight bit of legal. There's a legal way to barge in full contact rugby. If you if you're not striking with your elbow and you're not striking with your shoulder, if the shoulder and the elbow have somehow been incorporated in the contact and then you use leg drive to try and get through, that would be a legal barge, whereas we would say there are no legal barges here. Your leg drive is no good. It's a penalty. So just moving on to pulling and pushing are the other two. I mean, you would think this is self-explanatory, but it isn't. It has to have a definition. So using arms and hands to manipulate the opponent's movement, not to be confused with using your arms to get closer to the ball, make contact with the ball. Only got 10 minutes left. Make contact with the ball in order to complete the tackle. It's quite simply, you just can't be pulling at somebody's jersey or hands or hair for any real reason, unless there's a sort of a contact that's happening where you're trying to get a touch on the ball, and that's very clear. And if it's not very clear, that should be a penalty too.
Yeah, it should be. Like I say, I don't want us to get rid of that sort of, often attacking players will use the sort of attempt grip on them of a defender who's trying to then reach into the ball. They use that sort of momentum to help them spin around to look for offloads.
Yeah,
sometimes
that's a slingshot effect.
Twice, and then pass it on the second lap, sort of thing.
Yeah.
But I don't want to get rid of that because I think it's good play from the attacking player to sort of use that sort of contact and use that slingshot type of thing to still keep the ball moving.
But of course, using a pull to then create a slingshot that slings someone to the ground, that would be, you're not looking for the ball, so therefore that's a penalty.
No.
Simple.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on to pushing. I feel like lots of people know what pushing is. Like, it's written on door handles and that kind of thing. Like, it's just when you push. So using arms and hands to deliberately alter the momentum of an opponent, either with a forward fend, or in an attempted tackle where you're like, oh, they run out of play, I have an opportunity here to push them into a fence. I'm going to take it. Those kind of things you not really like that you just really wouldn't do
Yeah.
in any other variant. Like anyway, the only legal push is a fend where you're looking to change direction. Now this is sometimes contentious, so we've actually added a further definition here. So we've defined what is the forward fend. I'm just going to move on because like it is here.
Yeah.
So if you were holding the ball in your left arm
Mm-hmm.
and you were looking to move around somebody, you could put a fend out to try and create that space, knock their arms down or get around them. But what you couldn't do is stand still, wait for them to come near you, push them away, and then take that space that you've just pushed them out of,
Yeah.
because that's pushing.
Yeah.
Whereas like protecting the ball, moving it from hand to hand and then defending it, making that frame either, to get away from them or to put yourself in a better position to offload or to put yourself in a better position to make a good quality play the ball, that's all fine. But it's as soon as you start trying to, deliberately alter the momentum of the opposition through pushing them, that's when it's a penalty. So I'll just
Yeah.
read the forward fend and I'll let you talk. I'm sorry, I've kind of talked over you quite a bit there.
Yeah.
So while spending to protect the ball is legal, the ball carrier must be looking to run around the defenders. A forward fend is akin to a push and will result in a penalty against the offending player. So it has come up quite a bit where people go, "Oh, there's nowhere to go. I'm bigger than that guy. I'm just going to push
Yeah.
him and see what happens after I push them." So like it has been noted. Now I think the other thing about this is there's probably some people who think, well, that was my move. My move's now gone. But it's not as if you can't change your angle slightly and do the fend that you were going to do just to a few degrees
Yeah.
one way or the other, and then you've done it, and you've kept
Yeah.
your weapon.
Yeah, and I think in particular, we have Phil, who played for Ireland, plays down in Kerry,
Mm.
and he's a big guy. And one of the things that he does is if he's carrying the ball in his right arm, he'll put his left arm out. And when you're coming in to sort of try and reach past that left arm, you can't get to it because he's
Yeah,
just
yeah,
strong and just holds you off. But
yeah.
what he's doing is he's moving to the right.
Exactly. It's
So that's
making a big
okay.
frame, isn't it? That's what's
Yeah,
going on.
you're trying to get around to the touch on the ball. So you're making you're making him move, but he's doing it to keep you at bay. So there's nothing wrong with that. That's not it's not. He's not just giving you the big uh, forearm fend, knock you out the way, run dead straight. He knows that you're going to move him and that you're going to be reaching in, but he moves with you as you're trying to reach in, and you're moving in the same direction. So that's fine. Like often there'll be times where he scores tries because he gets it close to the line and people just can't reach in. The inside defenders tied up trying to reach over this arm. The outside defender, there isn't one, or they're tied up like defending the next person and they don't come in soon enough.
Yeah.
And if they do come in, he tends to put a flick pass in. So that's why he's such a weapon. But
Yeah.
yeah, but that's like I said, that's another thing that we want to keep in the game. That level of contact is allowed, and we do encourage it, and we want people to sort of use that because that's the limited contact, but it's allowed. It's within the limits.
hmm So the other thing on this slide is leg drive. We have spoke about it. It's I think the reason that we put it in here is because people are very aware of it as a part of the game, as part of the full game, I suppose.
Yeah,
That it's easily identified that these are steps through contact. So any step after the initial contact with the ball or the opposing player will be considered think that's with the ball or the opposing player will be considered leg drive and will result in a penalty against the offending player. So it happens both ways. You know, if you're in contact and you go, well, I'm going to make a bit of a ruck, not a ruck, like a maul out of this and start pushing the person back. You've made the contact, the tackle's complete. You obviously do have the right to leave your hand on the ball, but what you don't have a right to do is start using your legs to push them back, and vice versa. If you've just been tackled, you've been tackled. You should be looking to play the ball. You shouldn't be looking to make a maul or a scrum out of the resulting play.
Yeah, obviously, you know, it's a big part of the game. It's a big part of the stats now that people say, oh,
Yeah,
it's,
yeah.
you know, meters after contact, which I think is like pathetic. It's just, it's why fellas don't offload really, because they're just interested in getting these meters after contact instead of looking for a bat.
I blame Supercoach. Do you get points in Supercoach for?
I don't know.
I hope not.
I don't bother. But yeah, it's really, if you think of it from our perspective, tackle's been made. It's like you're trying to play on after the tackle's been made, where you've just got to play your ball, and that's, you know, and that works both sides of that contest.
Yeah,
That's sort of, you know, if you're carrying the ball, somebody touches it, you can't put driving backwards to get those extra 3 meters because you've done it after the tackle. The tackle was made.
exactly.
If you're the defender, you can't touch the ball and then try and pick him up and push him backwards to put them further away from your. And it's, as I say, it's a sort of a common sense rugby league referee idea of don't let stuff continue after the tackle's been made, and you know when the tackle's been made.
Okay, we've just got about a minute left, so I'm just going to go do the duty of care one. So all players have a duty of care to any player they encounter on the field. So whilst the nature of cross-stick rules means there will be contact, incidental and accidental, players must control their movements to the best of their abilities to ensure the safety of all players. Anything deemed to be contrary to this will be penalized. So basically it's saying, don't be reckless, you know, control your body. Don't say, oh, I was running as fast as I could over there and I ended up running into that person, tripping up that person. You know, you control everything that you do. Any sort of anytime you're not in control, you're risking somebody else's injury, and really that's what we want to get out of the game. So even if it's a case of making a tackle and checking someone's all right, or helping someone up, or just showing that you actually have control of your movements, that's an important thing to demonstrate to the referee. And anyone not doing this really should be penalized for not showing that kind of due care and attention.
Yeah.
That's duty of care covered off. So the only thing left here now is the excessive excessive contact and signal. So this came up through the World Cup. I think it's as good a hand signal as any. I've tried to depict it in the next slide. I have not done a very good job, but it's essentially your arms at your side and then crossing to in front of you.
Like a big straight-armed clap.
Like a big straight-armed clap is probably the best way of describing it. You start like that. You kind of start going like this, and I don't know what happens here. He's like he's dancing or something. But
I don't think
another frame where you couldn't see his arms might be the best, but it's a straight arm clap is the best way of putting it.
Straight arm, because that's the sort of what you're saying is that the two sides have come together as a collision. So
is it similar? Is it similar to the rugby union signal for not tackling with the arms? And is there a rugby league signal for not tackling with the arms too? Are they not?
The rugby league one, is that not? They're saying it's a shoulder charge, aren't
So
they?
do they do a shoulder?
Shoulder, like Mud from Tiger Feet. You remember those lads who were doing the?
Oh yeah. But I think the rugby union one, is that not a kind of a clamping?
I don't. Is it? I don't know.
I couldn't
Maybe they.
find it when I went to look, and I
No.
just thought if I ended up with a picture of Nigel Owens up here, um,
Oh
then
yeah.
that might be the end of Cross League. Anyway, you can see this video.
Yeah, it's paused at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah. So my first note is 1735 forward fend leg drive.
Okay, so 17:30 now. So within the next 5 seconds, we're going to see
There you go.
excellent. Yeah, there you go. And there, yeah.
I
Byron,
would say
yeah.
don't do that.
Yeah, no, the thing is, if he was in that position with that fend and he was sort of more weight on his left foot and his right foot was stepping out, then he could get away with that because he'd be changing his own direction, wouldn't he? But this is a
Yeah.
straight on fend.
It certainly looks like it from this angle. If we just play it on, and I don't know how to control the speed, but if we play it on, he seems to go in between those two defenders, though, almost as if he wasn't running straight at one. I noticed that earlier, but you know, uh, like you said, if it was very obvious that he was trying to go around that guy, then he'd be fine. And
Yeah,
I think this is let go, and also the contact that results from this is, I would say, not particularly dangerous. It's
no.
fairly innocuous, in fact.
Mm.
And he gets in and play the
Yeah.
ball, and that's fine. So my
He
next
goes for a
note,
quick ball, yeah.
yeah, my next note is 1747 collision, incidental contacts, player falls over. Let's have a look at that. So it's not this. So 1747 will be the next play. Okay. So with that, I'd be saying the guy came in. He made a touch on the ball. I think it was actually a collision of feet, wasn't it, that tripped him up?
Yeah.
I'd say fairly incidental, and I think I would say that was play on because there's no, it doesn't break any of the rules. He didn't. There's no leg drive there. There's no having another go at him. There's no pushing or pull. He's gone for the ball and they've tripped up over each other. I think that's fine. Possibly you could say, watch where your feet are. If that was something that was, coming up more often than not, you might say you're playing without a duty of care for your opposition player. But I think it could be argued that it was 6-1, half dozen of the other, and that I would say is play on.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so there's it's actually a nice little try coming up, so I left that in. They'll run around, keeps going, holds them off.
Yeah.
Nice,
Oh,
nice pass. Love it. Really good.
yeah. Good for Liam, that, yeah.
Yeah. So my next note is 1828. We're looking at heavy, questionable, perhaps not duty of care. So it's going to be not this play. I love the way that both these teams played. I watched this around, to try and get these notes together, and the
Yeah.
amount of times where they've gone like to the line, short ball, or they've slowed things down in order to create something. It
Right.
made me think, that's very good game. Like I didn't see this at the time, so this is
No.
pretty good. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, so we're just heading towards 1828. So some heavy contact here. Yeah, I think it's that I'm talking about. What do you think of that?
It's with it being not at full speed and with you stopping it, it's hard to know what was that a sort of a deliberate sort of barge, or did he push him back over his own feet with it? I don't know. I'm not sure that was
I'll
the
play it through
case.
again at full speed. And I just think that it might be like a little too heavy, but I'm not sure if it breaks any of the I'm not sure if it breaks any of the barging, charging, pushing, pulling. Again, the only thing that it could possibly is duty of care because he's thrown
Yeah.
well, perhaps barge. It's a sort of a defensive barge because he's thrown a shoulder in. I think. We have a look. Not really, though. I think that
Again,
what makes the falling over is actually that the attacking player is retreating to look for an offload, and then he ends up the
Yeah.
heaviness of the contact gets him on the ground. I would have said play on at the time, and I think it's fair to say that that's play on. Like I said, it doesn't seem to break any of the conventions that we spoke about.
No, I don't. Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think that the defender was making excessive contact that would warrant, like, was like, oh, you're just throwing yourself in, and that's against the duty of care. It was just that the guy was turning, and he just finished up stumbling. So yeah, I'd just play on with that, like the referee did as
Like
well.
he did, yeah, I know. So this next little note is going to be 1836, which is actually the next play. High, heavy, and I actually think he does give a penalty. That high and heavy, and then they stop, and then the guy says that is a penalty. Yeah, which I think it's about right. It was like just as far as rugby league goes, that tackle was a bit high. It was near enough to his head to be considered dangerous. I think had he ducked a little bit, he could have knocked himself out, or could have been knocked out, I should say. So yeah, no, that's fair enough, and the right call as well.
So they're getting reset now, aren't they?
Yeah. So actually, I'm going to leave this one on for a little bit now. Oh yeah, because the ball wasn't a touch. And I think the next little bit that we have is the spin fend, or the slingshot we were talking about, protecting the ball, attempting an offload, ends up in a loose pass, but it shows you that because I think it's Colin that does the sort of spinning and I'm wrong.
That was Liam, wasn't it?
Yeah, I might be thinking of a different part of the video. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
So yeah, but back to the principle of that. It's a spin, spin fend, protect the ball, attempts offload, ended up in a loose pass. Not really. There's nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with it, no.
Nothing wrong with that at all. I think there is a bit later on where they, as I said, I think Colin tries it, and I think he does a very similar thing. I think it does end up on the ground, or it gets knocked out by the Salzburg player.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next little bit that we're looking at here, I don't have many more of these left, just to let you know. 1928 off the mark. I am very keen on people playing it from the mark. That's 1926. And he's gone there, and no attempt to come back. So that does break one of the principles. He should have taken one step. He didn't. Obviously, he didn't have to set the ball in front of the defender, who made the tackle back here.
Yeah. Just go back a little bit and play that again.
Yeah. I might have gone back a bit far. Sorry.
No, you're all right. So he picks it up from this, doesn't he? Right. He didn't get tackled there, does he? Oh, he did, yeah.
He did, you see. So I think he's just one step would have done. But that's probably something that, whilst it's fairly innocuous here, it could be serious in the future. We need to have that as part of the culture. You go, he got me over the shoulder. I want to go back a step.
Yeah. You want people to do that if they're, but one thing, if you think the next pass is thrown back, then they haven't gained any advantage from that being slightly in front of the mark, have they? So
they haven't, but no, that's true. In this instance, it's totally innocuous.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You might you could have even. I mean,
that's really good, isn't it? Look at that.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'll let you finish your point.
No, just like I think just that, like, letting that.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, if
because I like it. So
yeah. Okay, so what I'm saying about it is, if would it warrant a turnover there? Did they benefit? Did they get a great advantage from playing it slightly in front of the mark? I don't think they did.
No, they didn't. No, but the principle is somebody else might have taken that opportunity to sneak down the blind and score. So
Yeah.
it just breaks the principle, that's all. And we just need to make sure that people always play from the mark or they take 2 steps back. We've defined.
Like in that instance, it only really needed one step, didn't it?
Yeah,
It needed
exactly.
the ball carrier to take one step back, and then everything would have been fine.
Yeah, and I'm sure have we had this culture of that's what you do in the game, it would be a thing that the referee wouldn't even have to get involved in because the players know I'll just take a step back. We're all right. And and the thing about it is it's not dangerous. It just makes for a better game.
But do you think that in that instance the referee could say, make sure you go back a step as a reminder, rather than penalising anybody, rather than causing a turnover?
Yeah, definitely. I would say
that's the sort of I know you haven't gained an advantage from doing it, but you might in future. So I'm just reminding you not to do it.
Yeah. So I think like in any of the referee courses, the common sense is a big part of it. I think common sense prevails there. You don't need to penalize that. You don't need to send someone off for that. You don't need to stop the game for that. You could say, I saw that. Can you make sure you go back? Because next time I'm definitely gonna have to give it. And then you make that decision when the time comes around again. But I think that one of our key things for this year is instilling a knowledge of the rules in all the players so that the referees have to do less and less and less because they know, like players know what has happened and what the result should be.
It's very much sort of running itself, isn't it?
Yeah. I think that's the thing with like any of the more established variants, tag and touch, TRL here, like the referees don't actually do as much as our referees did at this World Cup because the players know what the next thing is. Oh, I do this now, don't I? Like, you don't go in tag, for instance, you don't grab the tag and then go to the referee. Do I have to give him this tag or can I pocket it and run around with it myself? Like, that you have to give him the tag. You don't need to see what rule that is. You don't need to see, you don't need to be told. Has to be a whistle for you to hand over the tag. It's just part of the game, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I think we need to get our parts of the game clearly communicated so that we're doing those things automatically without any prompting. Okay, so I think I have one more, and it's not until 1957. There's a little bit of here. Play it from the 5, I think, is what happened in this. I think they got inside the 5 and then is taken them back, which is perfect. Good play of the ball as well.
Yeah.
This is the classic second player holding the ball. So we just watched that again. So what I'm trying to get to is 19. It's a bit tricky. That's actually 1 second beyond where we are now. That won't help. All right, go from the play. Oh, this is where they go back to the 5. Yeah. So what it is, the contact is made, and there's 2 players in the contact, which often happens, and the second player does the holding the ball, which actually they shouldn't be allowed to do. So here we go. We're going into it here. That's the tackle, and then this bit here, where there's a little bit of push and shoving. Now, the defender shouldn't actually be allowed on that ball at all, because the tackle was made over the shoulder around the back, which means you're in a situation where you're not setting the mark even and all that kind of a thing. Yeah. So this bit now should be.
Does that not look like they're inside the 5 again? So I think that's what the ref's indicating there, isn't it? That he has to go back
he has to go back anyway. Yeah, but this holding that seems to go on for
It's
an age, particularly when you keep pausing it. That's not.
Oh my God. Game
It's
is stop.
playing
Let
now.
go.
This video is playing. Get off him.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, no, with the holding in the second time, it's actually that's the attacker's that's the attacker's free ball, really, isn't it? The tackle's been made with a touch, so there's no holding there. Then the attacker has free reign to play that the way they want to, bring that to and he probably would have got to the back to the mark a little faster as well. But like I said
Yeah.
in the interpretations when we were going through them, it's very hard to know whether you are the second person in on something like that. So that's
Yeah.
where a referee would be handy to say, you're not the tackler, release. And, we do
Yeah.
have a release call in the new rules. So that would be a case where you'd be like, why the release? Well, because you shouldn't have really had the opportunity to slow that play the ball down. You weren't the first tackler in.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's all my points, I think. Yeah. Some good stuff in this game.
Yeah, quality, yeah.
Yeah,
Again,
like
yeah, that's good.
look at this.
And the
Get
ball
it
back on the top.
away. Step.
Oh, beautiful. What do
He
you give?
pulled. I think they didn't play it from the 5 again.
Right, they didn't go for the track. They played it, but they got
Yeah. But they played some fantastic stuff. So who's the real winner at the end of the day?
yeah, but the rules is rules on that
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
We do have five because the thing about that is if you didn't have people going back to the 5, there'd be
just
just
haven't. Yeah.
it'd be a James Law's fest.
Yeah. People just smuggling themselves over from a yard out.
Because you keep it low, don't lift it above the high enough that somebody could touch it, and just put it down next to somebody's foot, and then you'd have people kicking at it and all that. So yeah, we do. We definitely have to keep the 5.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. There's a bit of an excessive back.
There's no need for that, lads. So yeah, I think this is the play I was talking
That's
about
the
earlier.
thing,
So
yeah,
that's the
there you
big
go.
frame.
And then he's
Yeah.
looking to try and get that ball available, smuggling it out. Yeah.
And it's just unfortunately it's been made into a loose carry.
Yeah.
But that's that's not a forward fend. Yeah,
No.
he's used his frame, and that's cross league. If the attacking team can make more of that, that's what we want to see, isn't it? That's slingshot effect, or knowing that the offloader, your big offloader, is going to get into that shape and having runners, inside, outside, creating something often. That's what you want to do, and that's good cross league, but that's good rugby league in general, isn't it?
Yes, of course it is. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's everything from these. I think I was going to ask you. I know we've got through a power of work there, because I think we'll be able to cut a lot of that in, and we'll be able to use this video session. So that's pretty good. Pretty happy with that. But I was going to ask you about the just on the conversion thing. Had you had another chance to look at that? Have you had any more games? But I don't think you have played since.
No, because I've been busy with the college games, the last few. So, I haven't been down on a Wednesday.
I'd be very interested to see how it's going around the place. Hopefully they might use it today a little bit in the trials. And then the other thing that I was thinking, I think I made a note of this in the group earlier, is that perhaps you could use it as a sort of a penalty shootout if you had a draw.
Yeah.
Teams like sudden death conversions. So just thinking of borrowing things from other sports. I know I mentioned a bit about ice hockey. I think that we have a rule that's similar to American football, in that we've got 2 feet in the in goal as opposed to one. And there's quite a few little pieces from around. I think originally when we used the word tag, we're using tag in the baseball term of tag. So I suppose what I wanted to ask you was, is there anything from other sports that you're watching now? Because I know you watch a lot of reunion that you think is good and entertaining and something that you'd like to see in rugby league?
You put me on the spot there, haven't you?
Sorry about that. Well, maybe just like.
Well, one thing that I would say that I don't think. Well, one thing that I think is current that I see a lot of videos, of video analysis of tries and good play. I can't think of the guy that does it. The ones you've sent me a couple recently. The guy does it and
breaks it down. I think he's called
the little tick with the circles and the number, everybody's number, and he has that play video, don't he? I don't know what he's calling himself.
A contact coach or something like that.
Could be the contact coach, yeah.
Yeah, he's good. There are some terrible ones. I don't want to start naming names, but there's some terrible ones.
We were discussing it there before when we were saying what a lot of people do, and a lot of these so-called sort of experts on TikTok videos about lifts you should never do in the gym, and if you want this, do this, and I think, God, will you shut up? But there's a lot of so-called rugby skills that are being presented to people that are probably just bad habit forming rather than actual good for learning skills.
I think one of the things you talk about a lot is close skill, and then is the opposite, open skill.
There's too much. It's this sort of over-analysis, too much sports science. There's only one way to do it, and I'm the guy that's going to tell you how to do it. And if you don't do it exactly as I say, well, you're not doing it right. And that's a load of bunkum, It's sort of like it's horses for courses, you do what you have to do in a certain situation, and sometimes it's some of the best players in the world are unconventional.
Yeah, well, certainly, if you look at that, so do you know that Cliff Lyons try that? Is it Old Trafford? I'm not quite sure.
Yeah.
There's a lot of unconventional movement in that, unconventional passing, and even I know people kick back on the side quite a bit these days, but that wouldn't have been common enough move back then, would it? People tended to kick for themselves down the sideline. With a kick inside. There's an offload that's a little bit unusual to start as well, almost like a two-handed rugby union style and back, and then when Meninga gets it, he passes it like a shuttle pass or a basketball pass, over the top.
He dumps it over the top, but he doesn't leave it in the air a long time. He sort of gets his hands up and throws it down, doesn't he?
In order to get it into the next place and score as fast as possible. There's a lot to be said for not being conventional. I think that I did see. I'll say it was that Rugby Bricks guy, and he has people throwing passes, and then he has them doing the same movement with a pulley machine at a gym and this kind of thing. And I saw someone attacking him, saying, "That's not an attack, was it?" But he sort of said, they were saying, "Why are you prescribing this pass when there are passes?" Now, his response to that was something like, I'm just teaching the technique of this particular pass for this particular time. And yes, it is. There are different times you can pass in different ways. But I suppose what he meant to say was, this is the one that makes money because I can put it on social media in a short video, and you
Yeah.
idiots will start tagging each other in it saying, "Oh, we should do that. We should do that," because it does look really good. Just like drills, like truck and trailer, that
Yeah.
has nothing to do with rugby at any sport really. It's like a little game of its own.
Yeah.
But it looks great from a distance, from above, like even when you're following a player around, because it's symmetrical and all the passes tend to be catchable
Yeah.
so there isn't a lot of mistakes and this kind of thing. And
Yeah.
you can
It looks like it's sort of been choreographed, doesn't it?
yeah,
That's the thing.
yeah, yeah. So
We're
like
starting with that, like symmetry and choreography. Like we go in, as humans, we sort of like patterns like that.
yeah,
But it's not necessarily any good. I saw one a drop off drill, and it was sort of just
oh yeah. I think you sent me that.
running across somebody and turning it to. Now the first one was they went forward a little bit and then they went across, and the person coming onto that ball ran straight to start with, and then started making their way on the inside, and then got a pass, turned to him and passed to him. But then the next, they had the same two people then do it another twice, almost like
Yeah,
DNA. And
yeah,
it
the
was
helix.
mistimed, no running forward, no thought of where the defender might be. And I just think there's just so much of that. It's just like those second two offload passes, those second two drop off passes, were bad. They were just wrong.
Detrimental
First
to
one,
development and skill.
like just creating a bad habit.
Yeah.
You're doing it right once and then wrong twice. So you 2/3 of your little drill is bad. So don't do it like that.
Yeah. I think yeah, if someone should have said, there's a video, we can just loop it, can't we? Because they got one perfectly right.
Yeah, yeah. Get in the video editing suite and just
Yeah.
do
Like,
that another twice. Yeah.
yeah. I think I have
People
I've tried
are
that
doing
drill
that,
a
mate.
few times,
Yeah.
that sort of, let's have people going down, passing, practicing that passing, this kind of thing, and let's do on the way back, let's do drop off, or let's do pass to 3 to 2 to 1. I think the last time I did
Yeah.
that was actually with your guys in Tralee.
Yeah.
But you need to have the right space, and you need to know that you're not in the same conditions as you would be a game, and you're only really trying to get your positioning and timing right. And I think a lot of the time, really, you should probably reset after each one of the because it's a bit like when you see people swinging kettlebells. Their first lift is vastly different to any of the
Yeah.
others because they've had to get it moving, and then they've
Yeah.
gone, all right, now I'm going to swing it. Now, if it's a case where I don't know, I'm not a kettlebell expert or anything, so like if they're going, oh, like actually the first one doesn't count, and the swinging is the only thing that counts, then fair enough.
Yeah.
But that's not what we're looking at, is it? We're the exact opposite of that. We're the first one,
Yeah.
the one
The
that
first
you
one's more
started
than
from
the
starting. That's the right one, yeah. So, like, if there's going to be an assistance or what look like, it'll let it run out of room to me. The message that you sent me, like, and then they just tried to do it in a short space, but like, it's not. It's practically pointless. But yeah, there's so much of that, isn't there?
Oh yeah, it's terrible. It's terrible.
It's very gimmicky, and I mean it sort of sells in the sort of medium that it's in.
Yeah, yeah.
it's hard to find good content. But one thing I think the other thing is it's hard to make good content.
Yeah, like I said, that guy's pretty good with the what do we call him? The
I think he's got
rugby
the contact coach.
contact coach. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
He's good that he has that little. He has that diagram, doesn't he? That animated diagram where he has all the players numbered, and you see what angles they run and what have you.
Yeah.
One thing I would say that happens a hell of a lot, and it happened like Ireland beat Italy yesterday, and this sort of the defence that people are thinking is the only thing that will work for him is just pick a player and go and smash him.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It's a bit
Yeah,
like
it's
that,
like,
isn't
well,
it? It's
we
man on
watched them,
man.
we watched them practice this, so I'm gonna take this guy. You know, we've
Yeah.
watched them. They do this play. That guy's usually a decoy, so we'll ignore him. And then what happens is that guy gets it, and they're still tackling the other guys who
Yeah.
didn't get it. Like Italy did that in one instance, and Ireland went through and scored. And then Ireland ran a play that they obviously was right off the training ground sort of thing, and it was like bodies there and fake cross block, and then it went out. It was supposed to go out the back to the 10 who was coming around, and or it might have been the 10 past it, I'm not quite sure, but the a defender happened to just get himself in the line, caught it, and went the length of the field and scored. And it was just like, it was this like preset, we're going to run this attack against that defense, and it'll either work out for us or it'll work out for them in that
Yeah.
instance.
It's a strange thing, isn't it?
There was
That
no decision making. There was no decision
yeah,
making.
yeah,
As
because
I
of
say, he
the
found himself. He came up, made the decision that he was going to take one guy. That guy actually didn't get it and got out of his way, and then he found out that the ball was being thrown right at him.
yeah, I think that the coach becoming the sort of chess master in rugby league has made it where you have a lot of athletic based choices in your team, and you end up like trying to win the grounding and do all these 1%ers because everyone's as good as each other, supposedly, and you don't take any risks because why would you? If you've recruited right, which is part of your job, you should get, and it starts to get very negative and not very adventurous. But then rugby
Yeah.
union has seemed to have gone into a similar thing, but
Mm.
they were always very choreographed in their backs moves and moves that
The
mixed backs
whistling
and
behind
forwards
the
as well.
hand.
Yeah, yeah. So they've gone even more choreographed by the sounds of things. Like
Yeah.
they've gone
Yeah.
right. Well, let's just improve our choreography. So neither sport has gone down the road of saying, let's get better at making decisions and let's have more decision makers on the field. Like in a lot of ways, rugby league now probably has about on average four less decision makers than a team from the 90s because
Yeah.
there's no offloading prop, there's no offloading 13, and your centers tend to be more like strike players in the second row as opposed to someone that you might give it to. Remember, there was a time where a lot of centers would take the ball and run on the outside and have their own center, seeing what they might do with the winger and possibly drop off their winger. And I don't see that much anymore. You know,
No.
like it's because I would imagine the reason is coaches are going, oh, I don't. He's fast and he's athletic, but I don't trust him to make a decision. So, like, let's not put him in that situation. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah. Good point.
yeah. So yeah, just another interesting thing. Do you get a lot of American football stuff in
Yes,
your
I do.
feed?
But I was sort of going to use the phrase that it's the poison of American football that has got to rugby league and
Yeah,
union.
yeah, yeah.
It definitely is that it, it's very much seen as a sport where the coaches just order these pieces around.
Yeah, yeah,
You've got a quarterback making decisions. He'll have three options, only three pass options usually, but
yeah, yeah. But it's not. It's like their game hasn't evolved yet from where it was when they were like, whenever they made those sort of like decisions that we're going to have this passing pattern and
yeah.
that's it. We're
I
going to
mean,
run these routes.
well, that's it. Guys are running routes, aren't they? And they're not in a position to even catch the ball. They're not in a position to make an adjustment because the ball's already in the air being thrown to a particular